All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about the Cincinnati Bengals. It sounds crazy to say, but this is a team that improved from last year. They are going to be better than they were last year, which is actually terrifying. They barely lost in the AFC Championship game, but yeah, they got better. They had a sneaky free agency. They had a very, very sneaky draft. And it's crazy because the Bengals have been good for a couple of seasons now. Like, they've been more than good. They've been really good. Led by Joe Burrow, who's ready to claim an MVP trophy. They've had a great defense. They've had a great offense. And they've had great regular seasons. And they've had really good playoff runs. And for some reason, it's probably because I guess they haven't claimed a Super Bowl yet. But people aren't thinking they're going to win the Super Bowl. And I just can't fathom that, because the Bengals are my Super Bowl pick for this upcoming season. We're going to discuss why that's the case in today's video. But before we get any further into today's video, if you guys enjoy it, hit the like button, hit that sub button for daily NFL content. I post a bunch of Bengals videos. Bengals fans, if we could try and get this video to 500 likes, that would mean the absolute world to me. But it's crazy because I was just scrolling the internet and I saw Chris Collinsworth predict the Bengals to win the Super Bowl. And I'm like, finally. I covered the Bengals the entire year last year, and even though they started the year not great, they finished the year on top of the earth. This was a squad that started 4-4, and they won their final 8 games of the regular season. And for some reason, it just kind of felt like they were still a sneaky pick to win the Super Bowl, even though they won 12 games. So it all starts with the offensive line, because Joe Burrow hasn't had the best pass protection, specifically this past season, specifically at the left tackle position. We saw it with the 44 sacks given up. We've seen it in Burrow's entire tenure. He's played 42 regular season games. He's been sacked 124 times. It's like basically getting sacked 3 times a game. We saw it with the rushing attack last season. The Bengals were the 3rd worst rushing team in the National Football League, actually across every rushing statistic. Rushing yards, rushing attempt, rushing average, they were the 3rd worst in the league. So it all started with the Orlando Brown Jr. pickup at left tackle. That helps Jonah Williams. That helps your left guard and Cordell Volson. That helps your entire offensive line. That helps Joe Burrow. That helps your offense entirely. That was an A+ signing. I don't even care about the specifics of the contract, how much money it is, how much guaranteed money it is. I understand it even with a Burrow extension coming up, all these star Bengal players extensions coming up. I get it. These are future problems. You want Orlando Brown Jr. on your team. So that in itself is a huge deal. Now, the storyline for the Bengals the entire first half of the offseason, actually the entire offseason, was how many pieces they lost. And they did lose some pieces on both sides, specifically the defense, mainly the defensive back unit. The running back, Samaje Perine, was a vital piece to the Bengals offense since he's been with them. This past season, we saw 400 yards, 4.1 yards per carry. When Joe Mixon was out with a concussion, Samaje was a great two-way threat, not only as a rusher, but also as a receiver. And we had a really solid 1-2 punch duo heading into the playoffs. Now, what we saw in that AFC Championship game basically was Samaje getting the go-ahead before Joe Mixon. Now, when Samaje left in free agency, I was baffled, because I was like, that's a really difficult role to replace. The Bengals had a plan, they had a vision, and they executed it perfectly, but it came all the way in the 5th round of the NFL draft, where they selected running back Chase Brown out of University of Illinois. Now, I am from Chicago. I am from Illinois, and I have a bunch of friends at Illinois, or had a bunch of friends at Illinois. So it's slightly biased. Chase Brown might be the most underrated running back in that entire draft class. In the 5th round, and he's playing Big Ten opponents. You know, I know the Big Ten, like on Twitter, likes to get joshed around, but it's still one of the more dominant conferences in college football. He had 1,883 yards from scrimmage. He had 13 total touchdowns, 328 rushes for over 1,600 yards. That's 5 yards per carry, 10 touchdowns. He also had 250 receiving yards. That right there, Chase Brown is your future running back, but you still have Joe Mixon. So now you still have a pretty underrated two-headed monster at running back. I also want to take a look at the tight end position because you did lose a cat at tight end, which was unideal. However, you picked up Irv Smith Jr. Don't look at statistics, because if you look at statistics with Irv since he got into the league, they're not great. And it might be a little bit like, I don't really know what we're doing here at tight end. Irv Smith Jr., I remember watching this cat in his final year in 2018 at Alabama with Tua. That season, he had 44 catches, 710 yards, and 7 touchdowns. He averaged 16.1 yards per catch. I'm telling you, Irv Smith Jr. has been waiting. He's been licking his chops at an opportunity to play for a different team outside of the Minnesota Vikings, and now he has it with my MVP pick in Joe Burrow. I'm not too concerned with the tight end position. So offensively, they check every single one of my boxes. Obviously, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. You have probably the best receiving corps in the National Football League. I actually don't even, maybe it's a little bit close, but not really. 3 out of those 3 players, the Bengals are number 1 as far as just your core receivers go. And it gets even a little bit deeper. New addition, Charlie Jones. You have Trenton Irwin, who's a solid, reliable depth wide receiver to have. So defensively, let's touch on the defense because, like I said, all the question marks were mainly the defensive losses. I look at their defense, and I look at specifically in the draft because their first 3 picks were all defensive players. I loved the first pick of Myles Murphy, and I cannot believe he fell all the way to the end of the first round. At his final year in Clemson, he had 6.5 sacks. He had 11 total tackles for loss. I get it when you're looking at edge rushers. The sack number is the glaring statistic. It's what you use. You shouldn't use it, but it's what people use to kind of. It's like an ERA. You look at a pitcher's ERA to see like, oh, is this guy good? When we know in reality that's not the way it works. Myles Murphy is really, really good at stopping the run. All right, he's going to be used a lot on first down, and this is perfect because it gives Trey Hendrickson time to save energy. I don't want to use the word regression when talking about Trey last season because that's not the word I would use. But one thing the Bengals need to do this upcoming season is they need more sacks. They need more pressure on the quarterback. And just I think the simple addition of drafting a Myles Murphy, having a guy you can have on first down there to stop the run, it's going to preserve Trey Hendrickson's energy, right? It's going to have a trickle-down effect. But I just think that's one small step because I was reading something and it was like, the Bengals defense isn't elite. I'm like, it's pretty freaking close to elite, man. I would say it is quite elite, or I would say it's at least very, very good. Myles Murphy only improves your defense. And the defensive line in general, really the only nitpick is sacks. And it's not even really a nitpick because they still get enough sacks, all right? But it is something to keep an eye on. I loved DJ Turner. I loved Jordan Battle. I cannot believe Jordan Battle fell all the way to the 3rd round. But DJ Turner, cornerback out of Michigan in the 2nd round, just another great rookie who's going to have some type of impact on your team next season. But I think one thing with the Bengals is people look so much at what they lost. There's talent on the team, and there's talent on the team. They also got talent in the draft and free agency, but there's already existing talent on the team. These coaches are the guys who are there every single day. They're out there in these practices. They're watching everything at camp, preseason tape in general. So if they believe there's something you're seeing that I'm seeing that could be a glaring flaw for the Bengals, which I don't, the simple answer would be the Bengals themselves see something differently, right? They're the ones in practice every day. So that's it for today. I think, I know the division is loaded. The Ravens aren't really a threat to me. I think they aren't as good as they're made out to be. The Steelers are rising. The Browns are rising. But to me, the Bengals are still the team to beat. And I know the team in the AFC to beat is Kansas City, but I really like Cincinnati's odds this upcoming season. So I know all Bengals fans would agree with that statement, but let me know what you guys are thinking about the roster as it stands right now. Be sure to hit the like button, hit that sub button. If you guys want more Bengals content, let me know.